And take a few minutes and ground into that stillness. For me, it's been the deep black ocean of Devi Ma lately. So I would refer to or share in words the experience. The churning milk ocean is what it creates when it comes into form. Perhaps you're in the mysterious past with all the elements there as well. Grounding into the absolute really does take you to the mysterious past if you've already opened that in yourself. And then feeling the absolute together with the sensations and the sense of self starts to starts the engine of the Taurus and the vortex of beingness. Make sure you include the breath in your physical sensations. Just let go of the exercise element of what we're about to do and really relax into the shifting, changing experience in your body. My suggestion is to take every exercise with this relaxed, relaxing into letting the elements be what they are and shift and change. And they're coming together. Inquiry can sometimes bring us out of that if we let it. And it can also be just a natural relaxed element that appears within the unfolding. I like to just ping I sometimes when that unfolding is rolling. Just notice what it highlights within the shifting and moving. And so relaxed into the process of experiencing with the experiencer and the absolute. You can gently begin to visit within yourself, maybe a particular person. Reflection technique is really dynamic. You can choose one person generally, one person in a specific situation or moment in time. You can choose multiple people along the same theme. So let's say you have, all your significant relationships in your life. All those people can be in front of you in the exercise. You can there's a magical application for this that's related to the essence of things and um, tapping into the magic of another being by beholding them, referring back to ourselves continually until there's no separation experienced. And in that case, the magic of another being is directly experienced within you, so that anything within you keeping you from embodying that magic is transformed and unleashed. And then you also get the benefits of that magic within yourself and your own expression according to your unique way. So, for example, this could be as simple as something as a tree. A crystal, or it can be something more intricate and complex like a god that's been presented to you from the interdimensional planes, Shiva or Hecate or um, Zeus, whichever. I find that I don't really seek them out. I find that if I'm, if they're coming to my mind, or if they're coming to visit me in meditation, then that's my cue that there's a medicine for me, and potentially my medicine also can be useful for them. So in the coming together of me and the tree, me and the animal, there's a communion. It's not just I'm taking medicine, we're communing and we're exchanging. So we tend to think of this exercise as a way to address some problem within us in relationship to another person, but it's beautiful to use it in order to commune at deeper levels and be informed by each other's being. This is the way that when I've been informed by shamanic traditions, whether that's through explorations with teachers or whatever, the way that we commune with plants, for example, is this. When you do a reflection technique on a plant, you end up merging with the plant, and the plant reveals to you through your own senses its qualities, what it can be used for, um, its particular medicine, its dharma, what it's here to offer to the earth and to humans, its special place in the whole. I'm just thinking of Lago di Venere, the lake right behind Fleur, um, and how that's a beautiful example of uh, this magical being. That when you do reflection technique on that magical being, and then you end up merging and communing with her, you and the lake are one, and it's like making love to the lake. Of course, with each of you having your uniqueness intact, or another way of saying that is through non-attachment, there is the pure expression of being. There's no codependence, there's interdependence, being fully engaged and yet completely free from attachment. That's really the outcome of reflection technique, whether you're working with a particular person or an entity. And ultimately, the final inquiry of reflection technique when you're working, with whomever you're working with, is what is keeping me from making love to this person. Not physically, I don't mean that we have to physically make love, but what is keeping me from the full communion with this person, free of attachment? What arises in me when I think about becoming so unified with this being that intimacy is complete, and yet there's nothing to cling to or hang on to. It's good to bring in that inquiry toward the end, when there's a lot of unification already happened. Um, it can show us what's left in order for that communion to complete. You can also do a reflection technique on parts of yourself. This is something that I find very useful. It comes in all the time. So if you look at the three um, general things that we're always referring to, the sense of self, the absolute, and either all your sensory activity or one particular aspect of your sensory activity, reflection technique really is kind of like what's it? There's this therapy where you integrate all the voices in your head, and um, the therapist will like create a chair for each voice in your head, and then you go sit in the chair and you look at the other chairs, kind of like constellation. You look at the other chairs, and from the part of you that you're sitting in, you look at the other parts and really allow yourself to have the experience of the other parts, the relationship between you and the other parts, right? And it gives a voice to that particular part of you and how it's relating to the other parts. So this is extremely valuable. So it can be that you are in the observer looking at the absolute, or you're in the observer looking at the pain in your body, for example, or a thought that you're having, and doing reflection technique from there. So what happens in the observer when I think about completely merging with that pain, becoming that pain? But you can also move into the other places. We tend to be in the observer as a default. So reflection technique would apply to those other parts of us ourselves in that case. But you can actually start to be in the position of the absolute and notice the observer and see what arises. Or you can be the pain and notice the observer and the absolute, and then allow the pain to have the experience of the relationships, and that specifically the relationships that are based on separation in space. Mm. The applications for the technique are endless, really, but I think it's good to elucidate some of the practical applications. I always say that this is also an entryway into um, what the Toltec shamans refer to as recapitulation. So, if you read Castaneda's books or anybody in their clan, there's a theme that when someone first enters their way, they need to go through a purification process, right? And part of that purification process is an exercise where you go into a cave, be in a contained space. Which, what does that do? It gives you an experience of simultaneously being contained, so that there's a self-reference point, and um, you're in contact with the absolute. So as we saw in Pantelleria when we were in the cave, and this big cave. Being in that cave, being surrounded, it next to the earth, the absolute is suddenly available, right? So you're in the cave, you're feeling yourself, the absolute is available, and you start to visit with your breath. They have a particular breathing exercise that goes with it. Every person you've ever known in your life, and go through the process of clearing yourself around every person, which culminates in communion, really, in that they're simultaneously ever present and not there at all, so that there's nothing in your field to take you away from the present moment. No thoughts of when I was 5 and the trauma that happened, or the thing this person did to me 2 years ago. And just imagine if like all that, or the riffraff of that, was out of your field, like completely transformed, so that the power of what you are is free and unleashed. That's the potential for a long-term use of this technique. So I want to stop talking now. And if you haven't already done so, just pick. You can play even. Doesn't have to be like a major um, relationship that you choose. You can play something new, work your way into the major stuff if you don't feel like diving into it immediately. And just to cover the basics, then once you've chosen your topic, your subject, um, it really is important to ground into yourself first and to feel yourself and what's happening in you first, so that you can experience the distinction between you and other, even if that distinction is subtle sometimes, especially in the entanglement of relationship. It's hard to tell you from someone else, right? So really feeling into you helps create a clear distinction between you and another phenomenon that we might call a person or tree or whatever. It's in that distinction that the communion and intimacy can increase through our continual grounding into the absolute and allowing of the blossoming that unfolds. So let your subject be, notice where the subject is in relationship to you in space. A lot of times I say, imagine you're in the room with this person, or you're face to face with the entity that you're working with. But if they appear in or around you anywhere, then wherever they are is okay. Just notice, where are they in space and where am I in space? What does it feel like to be me when they are round? Yeah, so once you have your subject there, and if anyone else needs help clarifying, let me know. We're just going to experience yourself in relationship to whomever you've chosen. So keep coming back to you. You can notice how you're perceiving the other person. What do they look like? Where are they in space in relationship to you? What are they wearing? What kind of emotion does it feel like they have, if any, or thoughts you experience from them? And as soon as you notice everything about them, let yourself take that in. Let anything um, that is arising in you be there. So let yourself take in them, and then turn the awareness to yourself. If you notice, it's very much like working with first arising of awareness, and there's a reason for that. So first you notice someone or something outside of you, then you turn your awareness away from them and into yourself, allowing everything that belongs to the experience of self to arise and be honored and felt, included in the absolute. You can come to a settling point with that as the elements integrate, then revisit the subject and revisit it fresh. So don't go back to what they were, what they used to be, what you started with. Go to, okay, well, where are they in my field now? Where are they in relationship to my body? What do they look like now? How am I sensing their emotional state? What are they saying to me? What kind of body position are they in? And then you repeat and you let them go. You come back to yourself. Let all of what's happening in the self be seen and heard, which may eventually lead you to first arising of awareness, which is noticing being the one that's noticing everything happening, right? And then turning away from that. And as you turn away from that, it's really the opportunity to nestle in and experience this distinction between you and the absolute, or you and what's still. The willingness to shift there changes something foundational in a really sweet and uncomplicated way of the experience of the observer and the sense of self. And when that mini samadhi comes in, or the reset, it then begins to inform everything that you turned away from. It blossoms back out into the sense of self and the sensory information, the experience of that information, and how it gathers in its expression. And then it continues to blossom outward into the external world and the experience of other, and the experience of whatever or whomever you're working with in this exercise. So it's an opportunity for the subtlest, most internal, intimate experience of me and the absolute that's now resolved to completely penetrate all of experience and my perception and relating with other or the external world, so that there's this collapse of inner and outer into union. Hmm. So as we go into offering a taste of what's happening for each of us within our own experience, then as you're listening to someone share, if you can, sometimes the exercise is too much already, and just that's fine. You don't have to hear what people are saying if it brings you out of what you're working with. But if you do listen, keep referring back to yourself. So someone is going to share what it is they're working with. You don't have to say names necessarily. You can just share as much as you want as far as your subject, but let us know where they are in relationship to your body, how you're perceiving them in this moment, and then turning inward toward yourself. What's happening in you when you perceive or experience that person in relationship to your body? What kind of physical sensations do you have? How do you experience stillness or the absolute in relationship to those sensations? And what are the qualities of the observer or the one noticing both of those? Where is it living? Does it have any experience it would like to share?